Hi everyone! Today I'm showing you what I'm eating today while following Dr. Brooke Goldner's Hyper-Nourishing protocol. This was actually a request, so make sure you leave your comments below and I might just use your idea in one of my future videos. So today I'm talking about hyper-nourishment, but I also plan to do another video following her Goodbye Lupus protocol. So if you want to check that out, you can subscribe and hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss that. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Wendy and this is Show Me Mo Vegan. I'm going to go get my breakfast and I'll take you along with me through the day so you can see what I'm eating and we'll talk about what hyper-nourishment is. I already started my day with some water. Water is one of the key components of hyper-nourishing. I always like to use these mason jars just to help me keep track of how much water I'm drinking. I fill it up about 3/4 of the way, so I know that's 3 cups of water. So I already had about 8 ounces of water today. I did a little bit of yoga and now it's time for breakfast. Actually, before I eat my breakfast, I decided I wanted a cup of tea. This is decaffeinated ground sencha tea from Say Me Tea. After I finish that, I'll make my breakfast. So what exactly is hyper-nourishment? It's basically exactly what it sounds like. You're overloading on the nutrition that your body needs to heal. The hyper-nourishment protocol is about adding in what you're missing in addition to your normal diet. So today I'm eating my regular whole food plant-based diet and I'm adding the hyper-nourishing foods on top of that. So as you can see here, I'm getting my oatmeal ready. I eat the same thing every day for breakfast. And I know oatmeal, it's so boring, right? But seriously, it's my favorite food. I absolutely love my oatmeal and sometimes I eat it multiple times a day. I have a really old video where I show how I make it. It was one of my very first videos, so it might be a little rough, but I'll link that for you in case you want to see how I make this. But basically, I batch prep steel cut oats, I add chopped dates, a can of pumpkin, and either cinnamon or a pumpkin spice blend. And then every day I add different fruits to it. Usually I go with berries. Today I'm using mixed berries. And I like to chop the strawberries up just so that everything's nice little bite-sized pieces. So I'll microwave that and then I'm making a smoothie. There's a common misconception that you have to drink smoothies on Dr. Goldner's protocols, but that is completely false. It's true that a lot of people do drink smoothies, but that's just because it's the easiest and most convenient way to make sure you're getting all the right foods in. But you can have smoothies, salads, or you can just snack on veggies. It doesn't matter how you eat it as long as you're eating the right foods. And if you're following Dr. Goldner's protocols, it's a good idea to have a kitchen scale to make sure you're getting the right amounts. So I'm putting my blender container right on the scale. I'll zero that out so that I'm just measuring my vegetables. I'm using kale today, then I'm adding frozen banana and mango, and I'll blend it with water. Water is another one of the components of hyper-nourishing, and the water you use to blend your smoothie counts. Some people like to use plant-based milks, and if you do that, Dr. Goldner recommends an almond milk, because that's how she's seen the most success with her patients. I like to use water because then I get a head start on my water consumption for the day. So I'm blending that up and it's such a vibrant green from that kale. The third piece of hyper-nourishment is getting omega-3s from flax seeds or chia seeds. A lot of people will throw these right in their smoothie. I don't like those in my smoothie, so I'm going to add it to my oatmeal. I'm adding a couple tablespoons of ground chia seeds. And to ensure you're getting all of those omega-3s, you do want to grind the seeds before you consume them. So that's my breakfast. I'm going to eat this, and let's talk a little more about the details of hyper-nourishment. There seems to be a lot of confusion around how to do hyper-nourishing. I've read Dr. Goldner's books Goodbye Lupus and Goodbye Autoimmune Disease, and even after reading the books, I was a little confused. But I think the reason people are sometimes confused is that it's actually quite simple. So I think we're all trying to make it more complicated than it needs to be. So as we talked about with my breakfast, there are basically 3 components: hyper-nourishing vegetables, omega-3s, and water. The idea is to add a pound of hyper-nourishing vegetables to your diet. So what are hyper-nourishing vegetables? Dr. Goldner includes all cruciferous vegetables as well as spinach and Swiss chard. If you're not sure how to find cruciferous vegetables, the easiest thing to do is an internet search. But I have a list here on the screen of some of my favorites. And even though spinach and Swiss chard are not cruciferous, Dr. Goldner considers them to be hyper-nourishing vegetables. The protocol also calls for a 1/2 cup of ground chia seeds or flax seeds. Now that is quite a large dose of seeds, and I personally would not recommend jumping into that all at once on day one. Especially if you're not used to eating a lot of fiber, suddenly consuming a half a cup of seeds in one day might make your gut a little unhappy. So I would recommend going slowly. Maybe just start with 1 or 2 tablespoons for a few days and slowly add more. And I'm taking that advice today as well. I normally only eat about 2 tablespoons of these seeds a day, so today I'll only be eating about 3 or 4. But depending on your own health, some people might not be able to tolerate that much. And for those people, Dr. Goldner recommends cold-pressed flaxseed oil. This is the only kind of oil she recommends, and that way you get the omega-3s without the extra fiber. If you're going that route, she emphasizes cold-pressed flax oil that's in the refrigerated section at the store. The fats can go rancid really easily, so that's why you want one that's refrigerated. And based on what I've heard on her Q&As on her YouTube channel, she usually recommends about 3 to 4 tablespoons of the oil. Finally, the last piece of hypernourishment is getting adequate water. Now there's also a little confusion on the amount of water. In some places, I've seen her recommending 96 ounces of water, and in other places, I've seen her recommend a gallon of water if you're over 120 pounds. If you're 120 pounds or less, she recommends drinking the same amount of ounces that equals the number of pounds you weigh. In other words, if you weigh 100 pounds, you would drink 100 ounces. Once again, depending on your own health, you need to monitor how much water is right for you. Dr. Goldner often talks about how some people can't tolerate that much water, especially if they have kidney issues or some other autoimmune conditions. So those are the basics of hypernourishment, and I just really quickly want to explain where I got this information from. Like I said, I've read Dr. Goldner's books, and she also has an online class. She usually offers it free a couple times a year. But I think the best place to get the most up-to-date information is on their Smoothie Shred Facebook group. Smoothie Shred was a website that they started for people who are hypernourishing. And this Facebook group is a place for people to share their ideas and results from hypernourishing. So you'll see pictures of people's smoothies, recipe ideas, and it's also a place where people ask questions. Within the Facebook group, there's a guide section, and one of the guides has all of the protocol information. So according to that guide, it's 96 ounces of water, a half a cup of flax or chia, and a pound of raw vegetables. According to that guide, they don't even specify cruciferous vegetables. Whenever Dr. Goldner is talking about the protocol, she usually emphasizes cruciferous, but if you're following their official guide, it simply states 1 pound of raw vegetables. So now that we understand the full protocol, let's see what I'm having for lunch. Like I said, a lot of people just do smoothies for the hypernourishing, but I'm doing a combination. I had my smoothie earlier, and now for lunch I'm having a big salad. Once again, I'll weigh my hypernourishing vegetables, and I am just counting the cruciferous vegetables since that's usually what Dr. Goldner talks about. I'm starting with some romaine lettuce, so that I'm not going to count, so I went ahead and chopped that up and put it in my bowl, and then I'm putting the bowl on top of the weight, zeroing it out again, and now I'm adding spinach. I'm chopping up my spinach just because I think it's easier to eat that way. So as I chop it, I'm adding it to the bowl to weigh it. And I ended up using 3 ounces. Then I'm also adding some other vegetables. I have some cucumbers, peppers, and celery. I also took a bag of frozen butternut squash and I'm going to roast that in my toaster oven. While Dr. Goldner's other protocols are fully raw, like I said earlier, hypernourishment is just about eating your normal diet and adding the other foods in. So on hypernourishment, it's okay to eat a combination of cooked and raw foods, which is what I'm doing here. So after roasting the butternut squash, I'll add that. Then I'm also sprinkling some ground flaxseed onto my salad. I'm using 1.5 tablespoons. Along with breakfast, that means I've had about 3 tablespoons of flax and chia. And then I had just a little bit of a basic vinaigrette left over that I had made, but it wasn't quite enough for my salad, so I'm adding a little more balsamic vinegar over the top. I love eating big, beautiful salads like this, but it does take quite a while to eat. But that actually worked out for me because I was a little distracted while I was making my lunch, and I forgot that I had some leftover black beans that I wanted to put in the salad. So I was actually almost done with the salad, but I went ahead and added those in, and I also added a clementine. So I'll finish my salad and then I'll check back in with you at dinner. For dinner, I'm having a couple of my curry chickpea patties. I just recently posted a video showing how to make these, so I'll put a link for that. And I still had a couple in my freezer, so I just pulled those out and defrosted them in my toaster oven. Along with that, I also cooked some potatoes. These were potatoes that I had pre-cooked and I chopped into wedges, and I'm just roasting them in the toaster oven along with those patties. And then to get the rest of my hyper-nourishing vegetables, I'm having some cabbage. Once again, I'm using my kitchen scale. I have just over 7 ounces of cabbage, so that puts me right over 16 ounces, which equals a pound. I'm making a quick dressing to go with my cabbage out of lemon juice, red wine vinegar, just a little bit of tahini, some mustard, and date powder to sweeten it up. I'll just shake that up and then add it to my cabbage, put the lid on there, and shake it up to mix. I also added some parsley and green onion for more flavor. Finally, I'm adding a little more chia seed. Again, I'm doing about a tablespoon. So like I said, I'm only doing about half of the recommended amount. To fully do the protocol, you're supposed to be eating a half a cup. And over the course of my day, I ended up with about a quarter cup. And I also decided I wanted to eat my chickpea patties in a pita. These are whole wheat pita pockets that I get from a place called Shiloh Farms. I'm going to go dive into my dinner. I think that's all for this video, and I hope it was helpful if you had questions about hypernourishing. And don't forget to stay tuned for my video on the Goodbye Lupus protocol. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
Format error. Why? Oh no. The heck? Okay, never mind.